Hi there, my Vixens. I am so excited because today we are going to be talking about time management, and I am a time management nerd. Anyway, if you'll recall, or if you maybe haven't heard before, we have 5 pillars that we like to walk through in Vixen. It's your foundation. So, your foundation to get you solid to scale your business, your foundation to get you solid to scale your dream life, whatever you want. These are kind of core tenets that I found that most of my clients needed help with. And so we designed curriculum around it. So the first pillar is time, energy, and confidence management. But this is such a big topic, and I like to keep these videos a little shorter that we're just going to talk about time today. Separately, you can search for my episode where I talk about energy and confidence management. So also super important. But anyway, today we are going to talk about time management. So what I love to share is so many people cringe when we talk about time management, and I get it. It feels like life is too busy. It feels like we're overscheduled. And I'm also surprised how many women come to me and they're solopreneurs and they don't even have a calendar system. So, anyway, this is not a judgment. I get it. I didn't love the idea of time management either. But what I learned, because in my financial practice, I was appointment based. So I had to be time managed, right? Someone was showing up to visit with me. They had a scheduled time where we were talking about their finances. I had to show up at that time. And as a coach, I have the same thing. I have coaching sessions. I have small group coaching sessions, retreats. Like, I physically have to be present and participate at that time. And so what I learned as a financial advisor was to schedule the days you see clients and prospective clients, schedule a separate day for working with your team, and leave yourself another day for what's called like buffer or admin work. Also, if you're familiar with Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach, they talk a lot about free days, buffer days, and focus days. So similar concept. Many people talk about this in different ways. Dan is probably the guru, so tune in and check out his stuff. But anyway, what I learned was it was really hard for me to have a day where I was focused on clients and prospective clients and also be running the business or doing some other admin work that had to be done or interacting with my team. I started to notice that I use different sets of energy for each of these activities. I'm pretty sensitive to energy, if you know me. And then I got a business coach, which through a strategic partner I was assigned, and it was amazing. And she showed me how most advisors set up their day so that Monday they had all the team meetings, so they kind of wore that hat, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they would visit with clients and prospective clients at set availability times. And then Friday, they would leave to prepare for the next week. So when I switched to this model, it was a game changer. I saw how I could manage my energy so much better. For example, on Monday, and I run Vixen this way as well, I had to, on Monday, I met with my leadership team, my full team, my financial advisory team, my marketing team, and my client service team. Think about it. Saying it wears me out. I loved all these parts of the business, but it was like constantly switching hats all day. So I knew on Mondays I was out of there by 3 because my tank would be empty jumping to all those seats, right? So what I'd love to do is, as we talk about time management and I share tips with you, I'm going to share wins I've had, wins my clients have had. So listen to yourself, but we've talked before about mimicry versus mastery. At first, maybe pick the system that sounds best to you and mimic it, but over time, pay attention to yourself your energy and how you work best, and you really want to master your schedule instead of just taking someone else's and working with it. And I'll kind of give you some tips on that as we chat today as well. So again, we are going to focus on time management today. So if you have a perfectly organized, color-coded calendar or not, stick with me. Again, I'm going to share, kind of my favorite sources for managing my time. As always, I'd love to hear from y'all. What do you use? What works for you? Because again, we can be part of the ripple effect. As I share with you stories from myself and my clients, you get inspired, you get aha ideas that work for you. And as you share in the comments below or on our social media, you share your ahas and great ideas with other women, and they could be inspired by you. So I really love this. We are going to go ahead and dig in because I could talk about time management for hours, but I know y'all don't want to hear me for hours. So I'm going to keep myself very organized today so we can stay on track. And, as we go into this conversation, I'd like to invite you to kind of make sure you're present and listening. It's really amazing. This full episode is on YouTube. So obviously, if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast channel, welcome. If you want to rehear this, I might encourage you to go to YouTube because then you can watch, engage, listen, and take notes at the same time instead of being on the go. That would be great. And you can jot down a lot of these ideas. Also, in the show notes, anywhere you're listening to this, you're going to have the ability to download a time management worksheet that's going to touch on a lot of the things I share with you today. All right. So that resource is there. And if you can't find it, just reach out to our team at vixengathering.com, and we'd be happy to share that with you. Awesome. But as we dig in, I'd like to invite you, if you're on the go, if you're in your car, you're taking a walk, or, you're stopping in the middle of your busy day to listen to this, just take a moment and get grounded. If you're walking, you're probably good. Take a couple of deep breaths. And, I think that when you focus your intention, you get a lot more out. So I want you to just stop and think for a moment, if I had more time to do things I wanted, or more time to do the things I enjoy in my business, or just more time to rest, whatever it is you need more time for, I'd really like you to focus on that right now. And if you're a place where you can write down, great. Make yourself notes. If you're on the go, get your notes section out on your phone and take some notes. But, where do you feel that you need to focus gaining more time? What do you want more time for? And my next question is, if you had this more time, how would your life look different? And what I'd love is if you're listening with someone, share with them your answers, right? If you're not listening with someone, write it down. And the first opportunity you have to share and have this conversation with someone, please do it. It really is super valuable, and you're going to get a lot out of it when you articulate your intent. So today we're going to touch on 3 things. And again, I could talk about time management for hours. So please download that worksheet. If you want to learn more about it, reach out to our team. But today's time hacks we're going to talk about, number 1 is time blocking, how to become a vixen at time management. Number 2 is time boundaries, how to master time boundary setting. Now, I know it's confusing because our pillar number 4 is boundaries, but that's boundaries in general. Here, I just want you to think about, do I set time boundaries, right? What does that look like, and how can that change my life? And then number 3 is how to have joyful meetings the Vixen way. So I'm just going to share with you my ahas about meetings. I've had so many meetings over the year. I think you all would agree that a meeting can be very productive, or it can be an energy, time, and confidence suck. So I think it's really important to talk about meetings, how to set them up, and how to run them. So again, just a couple of quick tips today. Time blocking. Now, I love this. I'm super aesthetic. If you haven't noticed by my wardrobe and my artwork, I love color. In fact, here are all my lovely colored pins because I color code my calendar, right? And so I just think it's really important because when you color code in a way that has meaning to you, for example, purple for me is spirituality and growth, right? Everything green is Vixen. By the way, on my Gmail calendar, I have 4 shades of green because I code if I'm working with my team, my clients, creative time, or admin time. Again, totally different energies, right? And so really choosing colors that mean something to you give you a deeper emotional attachment to what's going on. So designing your calendar becomes more than just a to-do list item. It actually becomes the way that you run your life. And what I love about looking at my beautiful color-coded calendar is, on Monday morning, I wake up extra early because I plan my week because I do not work at all on Sunday, not even for planning. I know that some of you love to plan your week on Sunday. So again, do what works for you. I do it very early Monday morning. And I pull up the calendar and I look and say, are all the important colors represented this week? So what do I mean by that? There are colors that reflect my goals. If your goal is not on your calendar, you're probably not going to reach it. There are colors that represent my core values. So I want to make sure my cup is staying filled up. And I have a color for joy. In fact, my color for pure joy is pink. And that's one of the tips today. What's your color for pure joy, right? And so if I look and I have a busy week and there's no pink on the calendar, well, darn it, I'm going to make some plans and put some pink on my calendar, right? And again, we all experience joy in different ways. So that's really important. So, number one tip is think of the categories you would like represented on your calendar and then assign each one a color that has meaning to you. So again, green is Vixen for me. That beautiful green teal is our main color. I have different gradients of that on my Gmail calendar, which is what I use electronically. And it represents the different parts of Vixen that I work in. So you may have different things. Here's one thing I highly recommend. If you have a significant other, life partner, husband, whatever you want to call them, wife in your life, please make sure they're represented on your calendar. That is so important. And you definitely want probably family time on there as well. I don't know. Again, I don't have family time on my calendar. It's included in Pure Joy. But if you have kids at home and you want to spend time with them, you probably want to color for family. I'd still recommend your significant other is a separate color, right? We want that important time with our partner. So put your categories on there. Are they business? Are they working out? Are they family time? Whatever's important to you. Again, I highly recommend putting joy on your calendar. Almost every one of my clients has joy coded either as pink or yellow. In fact, one of my clients, who happens to be my best friend, shared with me that when she combined for the family calendar, she lost her pink for joy color because her daughter Ellie insisted to have pink representing her. So she changed her joy color. So just little fun things that happen. And, that's the cool thing about the Vixen gathering. We can talk in these ways and we understand what we're talking about. So that's number one. Number two, and by the way, time management, I like to call it being an energy broker. Again, we're going to talk about energy hacks in another episode, but really managing your time is managing your energy. It's managing your confidence, right? If you're in the middle of a day meeting with clients, for example, when I had my financial firm, same in my coaching business, my number one job is to give confidence, peace, and security to my clients, both in the financial business and the coaching. Well, if I have a day full of client appointments and suddenly something rocks my confidence in the middle of that day, maybe an email I receive or a phone call or a text message, how well am I showing up for my clients the rest of the day, right? So you really want to think about using your time management to protect your confidence as well. I also like to say it's your sanity protection, right? So, a well organized calendar with extra free time and buffer time will absolutely help you keep your sanity. And then finally, we talked about this, but make sure that you're using it to manage your joy as well, right? Joy and gratitude. So, what you want to do is cluster like activities. So, if I know I'm coaching clients all day, that takes a lot of emotional energy from me. I love it, but it does take a lot of emotional energy. So I probably don't have emotional energy near the end of that day to make important decisions. So I don't want to have anything requiring that on my calendar, again, because I know myself. So you know if you're most productive in the morning, the afternoon, midday, and you really want to do your focus activities, your power activities where you're helping clients or doing the most productive work, you want to match that to your most energetic time. So for me personally, since I became a morning person, I'm better in the morning. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I wake up at 4:45, so I'm kind of baked and done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I make sure that nothing requiring creativity, super brain power, hard decisions, difficult conversations, nothing gets on my calendar past 3 p.m., right? So you want to cluster like activities. If you have clients, you want your clients clustered together. If you have a team, you want team meetings clustered together. If you do creative work, you absolutely want to block for creative work where you're not being distracted by emails, text messages, people needing things from you, etc. So really just kind of think about what different type of activities you have that you need to cluster together. And then tip number 3 is everything goes on the calendar. Here's what's crazy. I was showing my calendar to a friend of mine and she goes, you tell yourself when to eat lunch, when to eat dinner, when to wake up? I was like, yes, I do. In crazy weeks, I have that planned out because it's important for me not to skip meals, right? So remember, we want to take care of ourselves so that we can show up for others and so we can enjoy our lives. And so after that, my friends started doing the same thing. So really, the more you put on the calendar, the better. And you could put free time. You can put free time on the calendar where you're free to go do whatever, but it's blocked on your calendar so it's protected. So here's a couple of what I call pro hacks. Pro hack number 1 is once you've set up your categories and colors, once you've done your clustering, and once you've made sure everything's on your calendar, you want a good rhythm to your calendar. Again, we're energy brokering, right? So what I'd recommend is, really after 1 week, you could review it, but each month at the beginning, review your calendar and see if you need to make tweaks, right? Like, gosh, I thought I could have 6 client meetings in a day, but really I'm no good for number 6. So I need to limit that to 5. So really review and reflect on your calendar after 1 month, make tweaks as necessary and articulate to anyone that it affects, right? Once you get a good rhythm down to your calendar, I've kind of had the same rhythm for years, so I'm good. So then I look at it on a quarterly basis to say, hey, is there anything new? What are my projects this quarter? What do I need reflected on my calendar, etc., right? So at the beginning, review your calendar monthly, give yourself grace to change your system, and then going forward, maybe look at it quarterly and put it on the calendar to review it. Pro hack number 2 is that you want to schedule 25, 50, and 110-minute blocks. Here's why. I shared with you before that the high performers average a break every 52 minutes, right? So how many times do you have your head down working, but you're distracted by email, you're distracted by text, but you won't allow yourself to be distracted by feeding yourself, right? We are human beings. We need to feed ourselves. We need bio breaks. We need to sometimes just close our eyes and be, and that's okay. So I guarantee that you can accomplish as much in a 25-minute meeting as you can 30 minutes. And you can accomplish as much in a 50-minute meeting as a 1-hour meeting. This gives you little 5 and 10-minute breaks, to put notes in, to catch your breath, close your eyes sometimes. That's a great energy hack, by the way, we'll talk about next week. And just kind of refresh and reset for the next activity. So making this small tweak on your calendar can open huge doors. Pro hack number 3 is set an alarm. Let's say you said, okay, I have to draft this email campaign to go out to my clients. I'm going to spend 50 minutes on it. Set an alarm to let you know when 45 or 50 minutes are up. That way you're allowed to be fully focused and you're not checking the clock the whole time. I also recommend this for meetings with clients or anyone else. It's just a great way to be present and totally focused during that activity. So next, we are going to talk about time boundaries. And here's one thing I know. Every time I have this conversation, the person on the other end, so all of you out there on the other end now, thinks of someone or something that is violating their time boundaries and they have to fix. The first time I gave these tips were during a 3-day challenge, and a client who's now become a dear friend of mine was there, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, my best friend calls me at 6:30 every morning during my Pilates session, and I take the phone call, and I talk to her, and she asks me business questions at 6:30 in the morning." The rest of us on the challenge were like, "Huh? What do you do?" But we all do these things that we can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so I really want you, as we're having this conversation, to hone in and see what comes up for you. Do you think of someone? Do you think of a certain situation? Do you think about not having enough time for something? What is something you need to fix by putting in time boundaries? So this is kind of simple and common sense. Most of us just don't have the time to think about it or don't take the time to think about it. So number 1, when am I available? So again, you have different categories, right? You have business, you have your personal life, you have your family life, and you have your me time. Make sure me time is included. So when am I available for each of these different categories? And let's say we're talking about business. So I'm available from 8 to 5 for business, or from 9 to 3, or from 6 a.m. till noon, whatever your schedule is, right? During this time, for whom am I available? That's question number 2. So does family get to talk to you when you're doing business hours? And of course, some of you have small children, you have emergency situations, etc. There are ways around that. But really, who do you let into that time? Do you only talk to clients? Do you only talk to customers? Do you only talk to your team during this time? And are there periods where you don't talk to anyone, meaning no email, no text, no messaging? This is critical to productivity and keeping your sanity. So number 1, when am I available? Number 2, for whom am I available? And number 3, if I'm available to someone, what is the best way to reach me? So for example, our team, we do not communicate with each other via email. Everything goes on a Slack channel in a certain way. Do you know how much that changed our inbox? I mean, most people have the desire for a 0 inbox. That means totally empty in a day. Few accomplish it, right? So how can you rearrange who communicates with you, how they communicate with you, and when, to make your day more efficient? So pro hack number 1 here, and if you want to dig deeper, look for our episode on boundaries, right? Is use the sandwich conversation. So the key here is love. Remember, if you're having a boundaries conversation with someone, be it about time or anything else, number 1, you're protecting something. So you want to know what you're protecting. Are you protecting your time, your energy, your confidence, your sanity, your joy, your productivity, or all of the above, right? So number 1, what are you protecting? And number 2, remember that if you're having this conversation, this is a person that either needs to be in your life or probably that you want to have in your life, right? So we want to have this conversation with love. And the sandwich conversation is simple. You start positive, you have the hard conversation, and you end positive, right? You sandwich it with positivity. And I was teaching this class, and one of the participants said, "Oh, I hate the sandwich conversation. It's so cheesy and inauthentic." And then we talked through it and practiced it. She was like, oh, I love this. I'm going to do it. Remember, at the beginning, it's okay to mimic and then you make it your own, right? So, what I like to do is really just share something I respect, admire, or love about the person at the beginning of the conversation. Then I'm going to share with them, what boundaries being crossed, why, and how it makes me feel. So that's the hard part, right? We don't like that part of the conversation. And then I like to end with us together coming up with the solution. So one issue I shared my friend's story about her friend calling her in the morning. And by the way, she had this conversation with her friend. They're still best friends, and she does not get 6:30 a.m. business calls anymore, right? So everything worked out just well. So I like to joke that I had this conversation with my mom. It's not a joke because it's real. I started being coached on boundaries in 2019. So again, none of us are perfect, but I'm just a little ahead of the game because I've been working on it for 4 years. So one of my first conversations was with my mom because she always wanted to talk to me in the middle of the day. I'm working in the middle of the day, right? So obviously, hey mom, I love you. You're the best mom in the world. I appreciate everything you do for me. I'm going to talk about something specific I appreciate about her. I don't know if you realize, but when you call me in the middle of the day, like it makes me feel guilty because I really want to talk to you and I want to be there for you. But it also distracts me from things I need to accomplish and often makes me work longer in the day so that I don't have that free time in the evening to be there for you and other people I love. And then to close that sandwich conversation, it would be positive steps to take so that we can still converse, but not in the middle of the day, right? So with my mom and I would call her on the way to the office or I'd call her on the way home. She knew she was going to hear from me every day. She knew when. It eliminated the conversations in the middle of the day. And then I got to leave and go home on time. That was when I was going into an office. So that's an example of a sandwich conversation. Obviously, practicing is a lot harder than just theory, right? So I always recommend you plan this conversation out before having it. Pro hack number 2 is the 3-strike rule. So I like to give them 3 strikes, right? Let's say I had that conversation with my mom. Next week, she calls me in the middle of the day. Hey, mom, remember that conversation we had that I'm going to call you in the morning or on the way home? Would you like me to designate which time it is so you know? Because I really ask that you not call me in the middle of the day, right? Friendly reminder, we've had this conversation. Here's what we agreed to. Can we stick to that? So if they break it 3 times, you have to have consequences to the action. And this is insane, but what I was coached to do, and thank goodness this did not get here with my mom, was, hey, if she continually violates, you have to tell her, I can't talk to you next week, right? And I use the example of my mom because most of us would be horrified to have that conversation with our mother, right? It's so extreme. But you can see how this is very practical and easy to implement. Again, hard to do, however. So do me a favor, anytime you're implementing boundaries, be they time boundaries or any other type, give yourself grace to fail, right? Know that you're going to be like a toddler learning to walk when you first start to have these conversations. And you got to just keep getting up and doing it again, because when you master this, it feels so good. All right. So again, we'd love to hear from you. What's a time boundary you need to implement? And when you have wins and successful conversations, please share. Everyone can benefit from your sharing. And then finally today, I really like to talk about joyful meetings because I don't know about you, but meetings make up a good bit of my week, right? I mean, probably 60%. So if you have efficient, joyful meetings that everyone feels good about, this is going to protect your time, your energy, your joy, your sanity, your confidence, all of those things we talked about. So here are a couple of tips on having joyful meetings. Number 1, always be clear on what the purpose of the meeting is. If you're just like, hey, April, I need to talk to you for 30 minutes tomorrow, I'm going to show up like a deer in headlights, not being prepared for this meeting, right? Hey, April, I need to talk to you about our upcoming event. Do you have 30 minutes to brainstorm with me tomorrow? Awesome. I'm going to show up prepared, right? So be clear on the purpose of the meeting. Be clear on expectations for the meeting. Remember I said we're going to brainstorm for 30 minutes. So are we going to brainstorm? Are we going to outline the event? Do we want a final outcome of the event? So again, this breaks it down into chunks that people can show up and be prepared for. And then tip number 3 is be prepared and be precise, right? Be prepared, and if you've prepared what your ideas are, you can be a lot more precise. Again, if it's a brainstorming meeting, that's probably out the window. Everyone's enjoying, everyone's, contributing, but try to be as prepared and precise as you can. Honor other people's time and honor your time. So pro hack number 1 is, especially if this is a team meeting or a multiple group meeting, get chatter and change out of the way at the beginning. So what we like to do on our team is we start with a positive focus, 1 personal, 1 professional. That way we get to share, we get to bond, and we start out with positivity, right? There's no other chatter that goes on. Also get change out of the way at the beginning. Let's say that you had said, hey, April, I need to talk to you for 30 minutes. Let's brainstorm our next event. But then you kind of had the brainstorming done at the beginning. Hey, I know we said we're going to brainstorm. I have a pretty good outline. I'd still love to hear your ideas, but is it okay if I go ahead and share my outline, right? Go ahead and tell them at the beginning so they know what's coming. And again, that's a simple change, but just anything you have to address, get it out of the way at the beginning. Pro hack number 2 is have a consistent rhythm to the meetings. Set time limits if necessary. And I'd like to strike out if necessary, because I feel like it's always necessary to put time limits on meetings. I am the worst violator of this. If you give me a brainstorming meeting where I can share ideas, we will be there for hours and you will hate me at the end of the meeting, right? So have a consistent rhythm to the meetings and set time limits. So what's your, rough agenda? If you have a team meeting every week, what's it look like? We have team huddles every day, and we know 3 quick questions we're all going to share. And if there's an issue, we'll address it at the end, right? So have a consistent rhythm to the meetings that people are familiar with, but gives room for flexibility so you're productive. And I would really recommend always set time limits and refer back to my time hack about setting 25, 50, or like 110-minute meetings instead of 122-hour, right? So always give everybody a little breather time and make sure you end on time. Pro hack number 3 is exactly that, right? Set shorter meetings so everyone can get out of there and be productive. So these are just a couple of time hacks that have worked for me. I've seen them work for my clients, and they're really effective and efficient. So I'd love to hear from you. What was your favorite takeaway from today? What do you implement in your life? And what are some time hacks you use that you'd love to share with everyone at the Vixen Voice? I'm going to wrap up today with a couple of questions for you. So again, if you're out walking, these will be in the show notes so you can pull it up, or if you're driving and kind of go through and journal these questions. If you're at a desk right now where you can take notes, take notes. So number 1, what did you love about our session today, right? What was that aha that stuck out to you? And then what insight did you grab onto? What's the one thing you said, hey, I'm going to implement this? And what I want you to think about, do you feel if you implemented that thing and were more consistent in applying, remember I said more consistent, not perfect, and applying that insight to your life, would your life improve, right? So we want to think about what we're going to fix and then the beautiful beneficial outcome to fixing it. And number 4 is, what is my commitment in the next 90 days? And the next 90 days, are you going to change all 30 minutes to 25-minute meetings? Are you going to change hour meetings to 50? Are you going to set that one time boundary that's really aching you? Really make a commitment to change something in the next 90 days. And here's a really big pro hack. Whatever that commitment is, take action within the next 24 hours. It might even just be putting it on your calendar to get it done. But take action in the next 24 hours so that whatever value, whatever you loved about today, you can implement. And again, I love to hear from you about how this changes your life. And if you have any brilliant ideas that come from it that you'd love to share with our audience. I hope you have a fantastic day. And as I always say, the world needs a little more love. So my challenge for you today is, what are you going to do to show up with more love? Have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon.